Hello, everyone. You hear me well? Okay, great. First, technical detail. You are all very kindly invited, even mandatory invited. If you have a laptop, please prepare it. And yes, it isn't too loud. Yeah, it's not too loud. Okay, good. So, we are very welcome to have you in our first parallel session, which is dedicated to the Baltic Sea to Land project solution, Sea to Land Navigator. You don't see it yet, but you will. And I'm Aneta Berzinja, and I'm here to say some introductory words. So basically, I'm very happy that we have so high interest regarding good platforms and way forward, how we are working on inclusive and I would say thought through planning, and we hope that afterwards this session you will have some good new knowledge or maybe inspiration to work with your planning and any other work tasks. And first small addition is that the logic of the workshop is I am here just introducing you, and then we have Manuel, who is serving the big presentation, and afterwards Anu will do a little workout with you. And as you are aware, we all are wearing Sea to Land Navigator t-shirts, so we are available to answer any questions and have any discussions about the platform, work-related. And yes, you will have a supervisor, a support person by each table, so don't get scared, it will work out, because Navigator is built to support planners and practitioners in coastal and MSP process. Yes, so this is not, as Manuel says, holy grail, but it's very close to it. Yes, so Manuel, the floor is yours, and the candies, give it to them.
No, but later. Okay, so this is going to be a practical exercise, but I will introduce the navigator very shortly. And what is the navigator? What is the problem the navigator is trying to solve? So, let's start with the problem. Do we all agree that, as Kira said in the beginning this morning, planning is a mess? Do you agree? It's very complex, at least we can say it's very complex, correct? You who are planners know this. So this causes frustration, correct? This causes, maybe you have been yourself in this situation, crying, pulling your hair out. So why does this happen? Why is it so complicated? Why is it so complex? Well, I can see at least 3 reasons. Different challenge depending on if you are working on land or at sea. When you are on land, for example, I can think that, for example, you can see the infrastructure, everything is visible. Here, there are uses, many uses, but invisible, some of them. So this is a challenge, how to deal with them. And then I like what Kira said in the beginning this morning, the fluidity of the sea. So something that happens here can have an effect here, fluidity. Okay, this is the first challenge. But the second challenge could be overlapping legislation. So you can have, for example, imagine that this is the territorial waters. Imagine that this comes the exclusive economic zone. And when you're working with planning, you have to deal with a lot of legislations, rules. For example, if you are coming to the territorial water, you might think about the local, the regional, the national jurisdiction. But on top of that, you can have the EU Water Framework Directive, if you are working with that. On top of that, you can have the EU MSFD, Marine Strategy Framework Directive. On top of that, you have the MST Directive. On top of that, you have the international legislation, and so on, and so on, and so on. How do you deal with this complexity? How do you deal with this multi-level governance issue? And then the third one. The third one is that there are many, 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 many uses in the sea and on land. We can have, for example, tourism, we have shipping, we have fisheries, we have offshore wind farms, we have industries on land, we have nature protected areas, we have people. We cannot forget people here. We have many uses, and oftentimes with conflicted interests. Another challenge. So what if this planner would think, okay, I'm totally lost what I'm doing, I need help. So then maybe she could think, would there be a place where I could find a step-by-step guide, a place where I can find methods to help me doing my planning? She might think, is there a place where I can find special data to help me with my planning? And she can think, is there any way where I can find information about these legislations, these rules? Is there a place like that? Yes, there is. And now Anu wanted me to do the Superman show. I don't want to break my t-shirt. So what is the navigator? Oh, what is the navigator? I'm not used to do shows like this with a microphone. So the navigator has three parts. The multi-level governance tool, which is this step-by-step guide, the data hub, which is the part where we will find data, and the knowledge hub, which is the part where we will find all this information. Very shortly, what is the multi-level governance tool? The multi-level governance tool, MLG tool for Friends, will answer some questions. For example, what are the sectors involved in my planning? There can be many, there can be a few, but you might not know them. So the navigator might help you. Another question, how do I identify the stakeholders? How do I identify them? How do I engage them? Another question, how do I prioritize my available resources? You always have limited resources. How do I organize them? Another question, how do I track the progress, the monitoring of the progress? And the last question, how do I communicate the results of the evaluation? So these are some questions that the navigator help with this. But how? How is this done? In the navigator, you can have stakeholders. You can put there the sectors, the objectives, the knowledge hubs, the regulation, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Then you put them in the MLG tool, and then at the end of the process, you will have a better identification of stakeholder needs, aligned interests, refined priorities, and a good stakeholder engagement plan. But you know what? This is misleading. I'm a bit lying to you, because the navigator is not going to do all this work. Who is going to do all this work? You, your brain. So the navigator is not going to solve you the problems. The navigator is going to help you solve the problems. Very shortly, about the data hub. The data hub is, as I said, the place where you can find data. So we have three places: the geodata, the interactive maps, and the dashboards. In the geodata, you will find data that has been provided by our project partners. The interactive maps are interactive maps that have been provided also by our project partners. They can serve as an inspiration for your planning. And we also have dashboards where we can show economic data. This is an example from Lithuania. And finally, we have the Knowledge Hub. And in the Knowledge Hub, we have valuable practice, we have methods, we have source material, and we have MSP documents. I'm going to just show you an example of what the methods include. So these are just links to external documents that can help you with the planning. And the good thing about the Knowledge Hub is that all these documents are linked to the MLG tool. So when you are working with MLG tool, this step-by-step guide, you will have links to find answers in the Knowledge Hub. So everything is interlinked. And this is very fast, very quickly about our project. So, did you understand it? More or less. But you will work now, you know. Are you ready? Are you excited to try it? Where are your laptops? Praise.
As Manuel said, open your laptops and we are going to do some work because it's a practical session.
May I say one word? We know that this is going to be an intensive work for your brains, so that's why we brought some chocolates.
Can we give them already?
Of course.
Yeah. So this is a sugar to...
Sugar for your brain.
Sugar for your brain.
Not very so.
I will go far away.
Okay. But meanwhile, go to the address. The navigator is located at navigator-helcom.hub.arcgis.com. So please type it in. I see at least some screens where I see the familiar postcard. So the exercise will be, I think the candy has excited the room very much, but we will do an exercise how to distinguish the stakeholders for an offshore wind farm. So this will be our goal, to see the relationships between different stakeholders in an offshore wind farm. And in Navigator, because we know that it is a very complicated tool, so there is also a free massive online open course, or MOOC. So there is a link, so you can, after this session, you can always open the MOOC and do your studying there, because there will be some short videos and exercises, and you can also get the certificate from there. And the Navigator has 3 pillars, like Manuel said. So there is a multi-level governance tool, the step-by-step guide to planning, and this has 6 subsections, and they go even further into details. In today, this exercise, we don't look at so much of the data hub, where are the maps, so you can do it during the coffee break or during other boring sessions that you can play with the Navigator. And also the knowledge hub, so where you can access these things. And also here on the left, there is this AI translating tool, so you can translate your, it's already in Latvian, I think. So you can translate to any language, but please be a little bit aware that sometimes these translations, as they are automatic, so they always don't work. and we will continue in English. You can always approach these 3 pillars from the top, but there are also on the open page or home page, you can also see the 3 pillars. And below the home page, if you scroll down, so you have the infographic introducing the whole of Navigator, so what is included there. Because Manuel is very good spokesperson to make you interested, but yeah, there are a lot of details, and how things are connected are sometimes very confusing, because planning, as you know, is a very long process, sometimes 3 years, 5 years, so it takes time. So you won't forget where you are and how are things connected. So for you to start using the multi-level governance tool, please click on the multi-level governance tool, or like Manuel said, for friends, it's MLG tool. And we see how the Wi-Fi works if everybody is there. And for you, not to worry, so we have our project people in every table, so you have secret spies among you. In the first table, there is Tarmo. In the third table, there is Anette. In the 5th table will be Manuel. In the back corner is Agnese. Maybe you show yourself who you are. Yeah, you already did, very good. And in the last table, it's Marta. So if you have questions. But the trouble is that in every table, we need to select a representative who types in things, because the others can check it out in their own screens, but actually only one per table can submit the answer. So discuss among yourselves who will do the typing. As always, very difficult to decide anything among planners. So have you... So have you decided? It's the easiest question of all. So if you have come to the conclusion, yeah, fine, fine, Tarmo, fine. So for person to start using MLG tool or Navigator, we have to create your user ID, because then all the data are connected to your person. So for creating your ID, here you can also swap the language, but here at the moment we type in table 1, table 2, table 3, 4, 5, 6. So see your table number and type it in. For each of the questions, you also see that there are explanations. So there are big questions in bold, and then you have explanations. And I can also show it on the big screen. So for the country, as we are from the different countries, please select Other. because if you are from a certain country, you can select your country, but tables are represented from different countries, so other. And it creates also the random number in the end. And for that information to reach the server, you have to submit your answer. So if you have put in your table number, country other, then you can submit the answer. And below this screen, you can also see now the different stages of the MLG tool. So like each planning, it usually starts with situation scoping. So what things are there? Then stakeholder mapping, who are the stakeholders? And this is what we will explore a little bit more today. Action goal setting, where we want to reach by the end of the planning, collaborative action design, monitoring setup, and in the end, evaluation procedures. So, but right now, we have to define what is our goal today. So you can go to situation scoping from here, or you can always go from the top-down menu, situation scoping. And in this page, if you are in situation scoping page, you can see the different parts of situation scoping. So it has 4 subparts: finding the planning or policy question, and there are requirements like how much time, skills, and material there is needed, sectoral mapping, and there are also links you can see to Knowledge Hub here. So we said like all the 3 pillars are connected. Typical SWOT analysis, what you do very often, and identifying knowledge gaps. But we start from the very first thing, so we start from the finding, planning, or policy question. So you can click it on here, or you can always click it from the top-down menu, situation scoping 1 and 1.1, find planning or policy question. So always with every questionnaire, you start by selecting your ID. So we have a lot of tables appearing, which is nice. Remember in which table you are. And today we would like to solve the question, oops, I skipped one part that I had to show you, sorry. Let's go back to situation scoping, find planning or policy question. Let's go back. So, no. Sorry, I got confused. We are in the right place. So describe the situation we would like to solve. It should be what are the impacts of a new offshore wind farm? So we write it here. What are the impacts of a new offshore wind farm? So the people who have the questionnaire open see that there are many more other questions that we right now will skip. We only fill in what are the impacts of a new offshore wind farm. This is the issue we would like to solve. And if you have inserted this, we will skip who acted, what are the evaluation, what are the previous things. This is if you do a real planning, you can do. And you submit again your answers. And below in the table, after questionnaires, very often you will see a table and you can see the previous results, what have been previous questions that have been explored. And if you want to see your own questions, then on the upper right-hand side, you can always select your table or your user ID, what you have filled in. And currently, there is not too much. There is only this one first question. But yeah, if you see all of them, so the navigator is also a tool for inspiration. You can see what other people have done. So it will be interesting to see sometimes what are the questions that people tackle in different countries. So have you reached to this finding and planning policy question, what are the impacts of new offshore wind farms? Have you submitted your answers? Okay. Then we scroll down the page, and there is spatial exploration, because we also wanted to show you a little bit how the maps work in here. Yeah? Too fast? Okay. I'm waiting for Annette. Can all the tables show me that you have entered the policy question? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So scroll down the page. Scroll down. So you submitted your answers. You can see what everybody else has answered. Or from right-hand side, you can also see what, it's not very interesting to see like what table 5 answered, because all our questions are the same, or what table 6 answered, because it should... Table 3 went rogue and had... they added table 3. So, but it's also an inspirational tool, because we have some longer questions, and where people have had more time, so they have fulfilled also the other parts that we skipped now. But let's move forward and scroll down for the spatial exploration. I know that in very many departments there are GIS people, so it's not really a substitute to GIS or map making. But it's helpful sometimes when you want to do participatory GIS or have a group work, and people can do different stuff. And to know, to show a little bit how Data Hub is working. So on the left-hand side, there is this layers panel. And if you click MSP plans, then you have to make them visible, so there is an icon, and if we want to see the MSP forbidden use, then we switch it in and zoom in, because if the layers are gray, like here, then you can't see the layers, map layers, but if you zoom in, then the layers appear. So we see where are the forbidden areas. And if you want to see the legend, then you have to go to the MSP top layer, and here is the legend symbol, so you see what the different colors mean. So this is also what other people can do on their computers to see the different map layers. Let's explore another map layer. So you have Baltic Sea to Land partners data, what our partners have submitted. So click it open. The icon is visible. And let's see here the energy layers. So what kind of energy layers the partners have submitted. So we see some more lines appearing on the map. Because if we want to build a new offshore wind farm, then the energy layers are important. So from Finland, there are a couple of layers, from Lithuania. As this is based on ArcGIS, so who are a little bit more familiar with ArcGIS, then this is how the layers work there. Zoom in. If the titles are gray, then you are out of visible range. If you zoom in, then you should see some layers. And see that the eye icon is switched in, sort of the eyes have to be visible, not invisible. Yeah, partner data. Partner data energy layer. All the layers that are under there. There is quite a lot of energy layers. Just energy from partners data. And here is also that if you click on the map, on the element, you also see what information is given about it. So sometimes it's, as we heard this morning, that sometimes it's difficult, that sometimes they are in Polish, sometimes they are in Latvian or Estonian, sometimes they are translated into English, but at least you can see what some things are. So even if you don't see any other layers, let's try to move on. And the most difficult thing, perhaps, is that we want to add a new area, the area where the new offshore wind farm will be. So on the top of the map, there is add areas. On the top of the map, you have add areas. Did you get this add areas? No? But Tom's, in your computer? So even if you don't see all the layers, let's add areas. So on top of the map, if you want to add your own rough area, you click on this add area, and you will have another questionnaire on a separate tab. So we start by selecting our ID. And the thematic focus of the area is new offshore wind farm. New offshore wind farm. And then use this polygon icon to draw where you would like to see a new offshore wind farm. So user ID, new offshore wind farm, and then drawing on the map. So are we ready with the map drawing? Are we ready to move on from this stage? Tarmo? Yes. Manuel? Agnese, are we ready? Marta, are we ready? Not yet. Yeah. Anette, wrap up. Yeah, I understand. So if you have managed to draw this shape somewhere in the sea, it doesn't matter where it is, then please again submit your answer. You can close the separate tab in the internet. And if you return to the main map, maybe you have to refresh your browser, so the map would refresh. And let's see how many new offshore wind farms we will have on this map. So we see that there are many more new offshore wind farm areas. And if you want to see yours, then you can again select from the right-hand side your table, so you can see what did table 1, what did table 3 do. But now we have defined the policy question, new offshore wind farms. We have approximately located where it's going to be. So we skip a few steps from the situation scoping. We don't do SWOT analysis and we don't identify knowledge gaps. We move on to stakeholder mapping because stakeholders are the basis of any planning. So from top-down menu, MLG tool, step 2, stakeholder mapping, identifying stakeholders. So there is also a table, what has done before. For our tables, it would be rather empty, so we can enjoy what the other people have filled in. But for our questionnaire, if you scroll down, again, please insert your table ID. And now we have to think what stakeholders in what sectors are relevant. Is tourism relevant for offshore wind farms? Yes or no? Sorry? For the sake of the game, we have to put at least a couple of yeses. I can put all yeses. You can discuss in the tables which sectors you want to have as relevant and what you don't want to have relevant. So nature and environment, are they relevant? Then put yes, and go through all the sectors, determine whether they are relevant or not. So there are 10 sectors. The more yeses you have, the better will be the outcome. So if you have selected at least couple of sectors that are relevant, you can also skip the rest and submit this questionnaire. So if there are at least couple of relevant sectors, submit your questionnaire and then scroll down. Now we have to determine who are the stakeholders in your relevant sectors. So once again, we start by selecting our user ID. And as I selected that tourism will be relevant, so under here, I click it open. So stakeholder name in tourism sector can be, for example, tourism board. I determine the stakeholder type, so it is agency or board. And I can select on which levels this tourism board acts. So the first level will be maybe national, and the other may be international. You don't have to define all 4 levels. You can determine 1 or 2 or all 4, and depending on this thing. So we have added 1 stakeholder in tourism and recreation. If we want to add another one, we add under the title Tourism and Recreation Stakeholders, there is a green plus sign. So we click on that, so we can enter another tourism stakeholder. For example, I know that there is Visit Estonia. And so it's NGO, and we also define the stakeholder levels. And this we do for all the sectors that you said, yes. So at least a couple of stakeholders, so you can discuss in the tables. Yeah, Agnese reminded me, or Anette reminded me that there are also these edit answers that once you have submitted something, there are always on top right corner the edit answers part as well. So if you have done something, you want to add more stakeholders, then you can do that. So if you have added at least a couple of stakeholders, then you can submit your answers, and you will see below your stakeholder coverage by sector, type, and level. So at least I saw somewhere that tables appeared. For me, the graphs somehow don't load. I hope you can see your outcome. So if the graph would appear, you would see which sectors you have included, on what type, and on what level. That it gives you sort of a good overview of your stakeholder profile, in a sense that are they all local, are they all international, whom you should include more. So it's just, you can also do it on the paper, but it gives you a nice visual that what sectors are included, how many there are, who they are. So if you have seen this, then let's move to the next step. So let's go to stakeholder mapping and stakeholder relationship matrix. So 2.3. And here is where you say the impact that the stakeholders will have on your plan, or how you influence the stakeholders. So it will be sort of power relationship matrix in the end. So we select again our ID, and here we see the stakeholders that we just inserted in the other page. So under tourism and stakeholder, we should have tourism board. And on the scale, we assess the impact of our planning on this stakeholder. So if we do a planning, step 2.3. Siin on see edit answers. in 2.3, you first select your ID, and then the sectors appear which you selected as relevant, and under that you see the stakeholders that you just inserted. And then you can assess that the planning policy question, how it impacts tourism board, for example. So I don't think it influences so much, so I put on the scale 2. And the other question is, assess the influence of the stakeholder on your planning policy question. So maybe it is a little bit more, the influence is higher. And we want to add the stakeholders that we had before. So under the plus sign, so we have another stakeholder. So for me it was Visit Estonia, and I also can assess the impact and influence to the planning. And this you can do for all the sectors and stakeholders that you have inserted. And so you go through all the stakeholders that you managed to insert. Kolm. So I hope that you have at least assessed the impact and influence a couple of stakeholders, and if you submit your data, then we have reached to the end of the exercise. And we can see all of the answers, or, for example, I managed to assess only 3 stakeholders, and then we have the squares that you have highly affected and have high influence of stakeholders, or stakeholders who are less affected and have low influence. So with, you have to think how to empower those who are sort of weaker, and how to curb maybe a little bit stakeholders who are more powerful. And what we didn't have time in this exercise to look too much, so there are also everywhere sort of the explaining texts in between the questionnaires and the answers. So there are metaphors like high impact, low influence is a ship's cargo. So what to do with these stakeholders. And also there are sometimes links to the Knowledge Hub, so you can see how to then engage these stakeholders, what are the related materials, and so on. So you see this power relationship matrix that may help you in your work with stakeholders. So in this exercise, we only touched in situation scoping, planning or policy question, and in stakeholder mapping, we identified stakeholders and did the power relationship matrices. But you see how many other subcategories there are. But I would now give word to conclusions to Annette, if she's ready.
Hi, so I hope you all went out alive. Yes, and I'm very happy to see your faces, that it really looked invested all the time and nobody seemed bored, and that's very good news. So actually now I would like to invite each table to provide very short, like 10 words, maybe 20, feedback about the exercise. Here we don't discuss wind farm planning, but because then we will never stop. But I would really like to hear your feedback, how you found the work with experience, especially work with the navigator. Did you find it useful? Or approach in general? That it's technically complicated, that we know, and you can even don't include that in your feedback, but yes. So please choose one from your table, from our table. That won't be me because I'm here. So yes, please, Tarmo, your table is the first table, the lucky ones. Please give us feedback. How was the exercise and experience with Navigator? You will get microphone because all voices should be heard.
Check, check, check.
One first comment. Thank you so much for developing this tool. I'm from the North Sea area. I'm from Belgium, actually. So my first question was already, does it also cover the North Sea? But no. I think it's very useful. I think also the way you have done the exercise is good because you skipped more complicated questions and just try to let us, use the tool. So for a first impression, it's very good. Maybe you have some additional comments?
Okay, so we did it as a group and it helped us, I think, to discuss it. I imagine if you do this on your own, then you may be a bit lost, but as a group we were able to contribute to that. As just, we ran into one technical flaw because we had submitted some answers and then we learned that you have to press edit answers. So that's maybe a small thing, a small remark, but otherwise quite useful to structure. Thanks.
Thank you for the feedback, and I think the logic of all the tasks, it's not like they're just Baltic Sea related. We are here more like content and quality and knowledge related to Baltic Sea, but I think this can be upscaled or uptaken as we practice these words. Thank you so much. Yes, table 3, please. That's my group.
Yes, I think I broke it, but I kind of like it. That's 10 words. Anyone else would like to add something?
I think this tool can be used for planning process like long-term planning and short-term planning. Because having such tool and having national group who work on this, you can solve a lot of problems, investing not a lot of time. Because otherwise you can sit on the table 5 times and go back and do something. So such tool is economy of time and getting results in quite short term, I think. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, of course, when you see it first time, it feels like you will be there for a long time, and that's a process of change, you know, because change is always harder, the process of change. And I personally also can say that since I'm doing SWOT in this one, I can actually summarize all the SWOTs because they are not on all the small pages which I lose afterwards, the workshop. So please, table 4. Manuel, give it to table 4.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also find it really useful. Of course, the exercise was super quick, and there were many dimensions, so it was super quick. But I think I managed to get a glimpse of the possibilities and benefits, so I like it. But I must invest some more time to really know the possibilities. But yeah, it's nice.
Thank you. I'm just getting used to the fact that everybody is positive. You can also have critique. We won't be sad. Thank you. Please, table 5. Manuel, you can now use the mic with your team.
Jacek or
Well, I can only add, it was, after this 1 hour and a half, I'm a little bit tired. So I think what is very necessary for navigators, leaving manual, popping up out of the software and, helping people. Because manual helped a lot.
Because Jacek Jacek asked me, so what is the final result of the navigator? But there is no final result of the navigator.
Well,
this is not, because this is not like a blender where you put your blueberries, your mango, your whatever fruit you like, and then you get a smoothie.
Well, Navigator, to speak project-wise, is a project output. So basically, we built Navigator to support planning, and Navigator itself, it's not like some deliverable. It's a living thing. We want you to help in your work. And since we are here in Riga, there's this saying that Riga will be never ready, and I think that this counts and works for the Navigator too. Yeah, but the good news is that maybe if we develop tool, we could have AI chatbot called Manuel or Anette, and also we built, led by our Polish partners in the Baltic Sea to Land, massive open online course, and that one is created to have your own Manuel, who is like, you could become Manuel when you go through the course and work with the Navigator. Not Manuel, you are your own person, Please, table 6, Sam.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I agree with everyone. So thank you. That's all now. Yeah, we also found it very easy to use, and it's very comprehensive. It looks really nice, and it's visually very appealing, I think. We had a lot of fun. We worked as a group here, and yeah, it was just an exercise to learn how to use it, so we didn't really give correct answers, but we had a lot of fun. One small issue that I noticed right now is this under stakeholder relationship matrices. We submitted the same response 3 times because of my impatience, and I don't know if there's a way to remove any of these stakeholders from the left side here. Yeah, but there's basically 3 gems on the table at the moment. I don't know, maybe we need to start all over, which wouldn't be nice in the long run. Yeah, that's all.
Yes, thank you. Of course, I would say that there's a lot of technical issues and bugs and things we still have to solve to improve your user friendliness, but still it's nice to hear that you had fun in this, because that's I think the logic of planning, that we work here together and we co-create in the planning process rather than you are alone. But yeah, so thank you so much for being patient and interactive and trying the Navigator. And to finish it, we have to ask you to fill in institutional capacity survey, where I can find the link. Maybe it's in the presentation, Manuel? No, it's not. But it's in the QR codes. We have a few minutes left. So the thing is that each Interreg project calls to fill in institutional capacity survey to evaluate if the project solutions actually are useful. So we would like to share the QR code with you to just fill in the survey. Yes? Yes, great, Q. Yeah. Yeah, now just change the laptop. Probably all the other QR codes around the building are dedicated to this, but we just wanted to remind you. And yes, this is rainbow. So yeah, here this is the QR code. Maybe some of you already filled in because we are now doing a lot of workshops. And yes, you don't get any cookies for this, but just a major thank you from our team. And we really hope that you will go home and create your own ID and try to discover C2Line Navigator more. And if you have any questions, then yes, please contact us. If you notice bugs, we are very, very interested to work on the Navigator all the time. And in the end of the project, in addition to online course, we will have user guidelines and technical guidelines. So basically, everyone will be available to build their own C2Line Navigator, or should be. Yeah, and I have to do some, I don't know, formal thing. I hope you all agree that we would like to thank you on behalf of the Baltic C2Line project to Manuel. Yes. And to Anu for her great patience and amazing teaching skills. She was a bit worried today and in a hurry. So yeah, feel free to ask us. The Navigator team is here to serve. Yes, thank you, and everybody is free to go.